This is Karen with newclevelandradio.net, and it's time for Avoid the Maze, Your Journey Through Life. Now, this podcast is going to be on two different um, titles because my guest is doing something that I think is remarkable as an individual. And that's why he's on Avoid the Maze, Your Journey Through Life. But we have another podcast called Isms. And so many of us are just walking around with this feeling like life just isn't the way it's supposed to be. And we're pointing fingers at each other. You know, it's your fault. It's your fault. If I had this, if I had that. And Isms is a podcast where we talk about what we can do as individuals on a day-to-day basis to make our life the best we can. But as we are doing that, others can latch on. Others can get that emotion from us, that passion from us. So my guest, Jeff Fisher, is a business leader in his community. But you founded a foundation. Besides all your businesses, you said, hey, you know what? I think I have an extra 5 minutes in my day. I'm going to start a foundation called Ride the Wave. Now, for some of us, Ride the Wave might mean, oh, I'm going to have to pay Jeff a lot of money to get into this foundation because to ride the wave, you must be spending money. But tell us a little bit about it because my first impression was totally wrong. You're helping people who probably don't have a nickel to their name learn how to ride the wave and live life.
Yeah, thank you first so much, Karen, for having me on your great show. I appreciate just the opportunity to share the story of Wave because it's something that's pretty amazing. And you nailed it where I think that we tend to be a bit complacent sometimes. And my life changed when I started to be a go-giver instead of a go-getter. So that service aspect really has changed my life. So at Ride the Wave Foundation, we're our commitment is to build an all-inclusive, modern, university-style campus where somebody could be admitted, they could be accepted, and not leave until they feel vibrant, happy, their best selves, basically, so they could contribute what they can and not a revolving door. What we found was there's various resources that people have to navigate and they don't have transportation. So we ended up finding a bit of a transportation gap there as well. So realizing what's going on within the community, Mark Robinson is a very unlikely friendship. He's somebody I met along the way during formation. He has dreads. He's a black gentleman. He's the co-host on Ride the Wave podcast. And the podcast has gone from 0 to 100K in 6 months. So we have a platform where anybody of any race, creed, sex can come on. They can talk about really anything. We're over 50 episodes now. It's become a really great platform also to get the word out and for homeless people to come on and to share their story because it's build trust in the community, share the story. I wrote a book called Wavemaker. Wavemaker is a repurposed story of a real interaction I had, which was the catalyst. And it was somebody who was homeless. His name was Daryl in a van across where my mom lives. There's a convenience store, followed by principles to teach people and empower them how to approach others on the street they normally wouldn't. Because I really do. I think we need to get out there. I think there's a formula to it. There's a way we could softly approach somebody to check on them, or there's such a value. The path is to the person. That's our tagline. Because when I'm connecting to people, hearing their stories, that's what fills up my spirit. That's the wave, really. And it's how to do that and to continue to ride it.
You know, it's interesting. I live in we're really not called a suburb, but we're like a suburb of Cleveland. And we're in the middle of the national park. And we have all different economics in our subdivision. But I was driving last summer down the street, early evening, And I saw this little woman hunched over, walking, wearing black. And I hate to admit it, but my first reaction was she looked like a homeless person.
Hmm.
Nobody walks down that street typically. Cars drive up and down to get into the subdivision. And there's a lot of trees over to the side. And because we're in the middle of the national park, I know there are a lot of homeless people that do live in the park.
Yeah.
This woman, I kept seeing her, and then I would see her on the main street, and she just looked all hunched over. My heart went out to her. I called the police and I said, I'm not asking you to do anything terrible, but I think this woman might need help. And they said,
Hmm.
why did she ask for help? And I said, no, but it's painful to watch her walk down the street. And the policeman said to me, then don't watch her. I thought, I didn't like that answer.
Yeah.
So I
Mm.
started asking other neighbors. Well, finally, I got a neighbor who got very upset with me and said, oh, I know who she is. And she's a very independent woman. She can't drive anymore. And gave me the story behind it. And I thought, okay, so she does live here, but I still felt that she could use something. I mean, sadly, in this day and age, you don't live too many places where you can't drive. So
Yeah.
I started talking about it, and I got people who got mad at me. What was I trying to be? A goody two shoes? And I said, no, I just saw somebody who I noticed needed help or I thought needed help. I would have loved somebody to do that for me if I was walking down the road. But so many of us are afraid to get involved. Either we're afraid that people are going to tell us, you know, get your nosy nose out of there, or we're afraid that the person that we're going to approach may not like our approach. So,
Right.
how do we do this in the right way? Because there are a lot of us who want to be helpful.
Yeah, and I think what you did is great. And I'm sorry you were receiving a little bit of static there from people or even pushback because that act is just and it's ethical. And I think that if we do that, there is that formula that I found with Daryl, but also some other interactions that I had. There was a man that was his name was Hal. He was in Starbucks that I met him, and he had a stroke, and he was visibly impaired a bit, but he was not nice to the staff. He was pretty unfriendly to the staff. And after Daryl, I wanted to see if there was a formula. So I positioned myself a certain way, getting a napkin, and I realized with chest open, leaning a certain way, looking someone in the eye with a soft approach, there's a way to deliver your message, to introduce yourself, talk to them or anyone like they're a regular person, because we tend to be very transactional. So in the book, radiate positivity and how to do that, the art of asking questions, because I do think that there's such value. And even if it's a stupid question or somebody thinks that, not being afraid to ask a question and know how to formulate one is really important so we can get to the bottom of how to ask people who they are and really gauge and get those conversations going. Fear is normal. When I had that wave come over me with Daryl, it was like God speaking to me to knock on the window, and there was fear, there was hesitation, there was doubt, but it's pushing through that. And it's a soft voice that is dormant in all of us. That's the wave, and the path is to the person. There's various distractions set up, whether it be social media, us walking around our own lives. We're very busy with a lot of things, and we tend to be narrow minded, or we look narrowly into what our lives are, what we can get, certain things like that. But there's no better currency than to connect with people and to serve them. And there's a way to birth that through a process. You can get to your purpose. So that's what we're working on. We're working on to empower people to be able to have the skills and to safely approach others and to talk to them, whether it be online or anywhere. Because in this world as it goes with AI and things like that, we're just going to be a bit more disconnected there. So it also comes from the inside out. Damon West at damonwest.org, he's somebody that has been very encouraging, and John Gordon, Jon Gordon.com. They're in the empowerment, personal development space, people that I look up to. And they have eyes on it too. And they could see that it's a good opportunity to bring down the personal development space as well into the campus. And there's a lot of real data that positivity, even in the workforce, works. So us being a little bit more humane and empathetical towards others, but having the personal skills or the type of skills to be able to approach people we normally wouldn't, and going and riding that wave of that voice when it comes, and to be able to recognize it. At the end of the day, Karen, I don't want to look back and you know, God would say, why didn't you approach me? I was over there. Or I gave you this opportunity to help and you didn't. We're looking to pursue this and it's a major project, but it's very fulfilling at the same time.
So you created this campus. Now, how do people find the campus, and how do you just, because you can't take everybody, obviously. You only have so much space, I'm assuming. So how do you decide who can come in at this moment and who maybe has to wait it out until there's space again?
Just to clarify, so the campus itself isn't, it's in concept phase. So June 2023 is when the wheels basically touched down from an Entree Leadership conference that I went to, and I was circulating it everywhere. Connected with Ken Coleman of the Ken Coleman Show through Ramsey Solutions, great guy. So I knew it could operate at a high level when the wheels touched down. So we're fairly new. We have some work to do to monetize the podcast and also get the book to bestseller, but also to sell so we could get that monetized and doing really well. Future apparel potentially to sell through the website. So we have steps that we need to take in order to get a concept drawing. And the project plan right now, the goal is in the next 3 years to have a full concept drawing and a partnership or an idea on what state we'll go to as we get there. So it is forming, and the campus itself is going to be the type of place where, like I had said, it's got to be a little bit of a admission process. Somebody does have to want to get better. And when they're accepted, if it needs detox, elongated detox with the most humane, updated, whether it be holistical and medical type of facility. But the culture is key. The culture has to be very positive, all on site vouchers. Maybe they get a wristband with a certain amount of money they could spend on clothing and food. After detox, tailored towards them because everybody's body is different. It could be longer. They go into a fitness and wellness space where they learn how to cook. There's fitness. They go after that to an empowerment session. So, how to be a go giver, mental health strategies from a business perspective, how to be a leader. I think everybody, no matter what they do, Karen, should be have some sort of leadership training as
Sure.
well. And not the complicated math and things if somebody's not educated, but had a budget, simple things to get by in life. And then a mentorship program, not like social workers where they have 50 plus cases and their minds are all over the place, but a dedicated person to sit down and walk them through everything. And then when they graduate, they have access to that mentorship program after. So they have they're truly feeling good. It's a non-religious facility to not deter anybody. It doesn't matter who you are, because feel like you can get to where you want to go that way after you feel your best self.
Sure.
So all in concept phase, we're going to get there eventually, but we're going not trying to put the horse before the cart, essentially just
Right.
going on a project plan step by step. So
What you also need is a lot of individuals like yourself who truly see the value. And
yeah,
I've worked with a lot of nonprofit organizations for many different things. And typically, volunteers get burned out very easily. And sometimes they can, like, I sort of got burned out. I tried to help somebody in my community and nobody wanted to listen to me. Um, it made me feel like, would I ever do it again? It's taken me
Mhm.
almost a year to the point, yes, I would do it again. Um, But am I going out looking for it? No, I am not. But you need people who are going out and looking because that's how people are going to be noticed, truly, truly helped. And once
Yeah.
somebody gets help, they're going to be able to help their neighbor who they know is hurting or suffering in the same manner that they have. So how do we get them
Yeah.
volunteers?
It's my job, it's my position to speak upon the mission and to motivate and empower others as much as I can. It doesn't matter, and this is not bragatory, where I'm at. I live in Morristown, Somerville, New Jersey, but Morristown, New Jersey, we're always in. That's kind of the hub where we're doing this. Somebody could have horns coming out of their head. I mean, I have spoken to, a young girl that had dyed hair and she kicked a church flyer and walking around the corner of Starbucks, and I ended up talking to her. It's that approach. It's that, and the campus hits when I'm pitching it and speaking about it to mostly anybody. Mark and I, Robinson, we handed out flyers. We're going to go to a university to try to get volunteers for young people. So really motivating the people, showing that it's something that's fresh, something that's new. I think, I'm not really 100% sure, but it seems to be a little bit of a unique model too. Because if we could get the podcast monetized and it's a significant show, we could utilize recognition from the show, Mark and I, to see things through we normally wouldn't for the campus. If we're popular and we hit static, or there's something going on with a law, or we need to do a survey. Hey, people, like here's what we ran into, this obstacle to get to campus. We need your help with this. So making sure that everybody understands the commitment and the mission, because everything that Mark and I does points to us cutting the ribbon. The book, the show, all the outreaches, our partnerships are all pointed towards the campus. So I think it's up to us to motivate people to bring out, because you could speak from the inside out. You could speak your world into existence. You could change your paradigm if you believe in anything. And I would say to you, Karen, and or anybody that's pursuing something, I think God has a way of putting these certain walls in place, especially early on when it starts, to see if you really want it. Do you really want this? So it's sort of to be expected that people are going to push back a little bit. But I think that if you believe in it and if you know it could help, you should continue to push forward despite what other people say or what they think. And it all really comes down to how you speak to people and your perspective. And I think how you deliver it. And what better way to do it justly and to do it with great language. And then if someone's not on board, not everybody's going to be into it. That's okay too. But this is a lane I look at it not only to do great in the community, because of the high level people that are looking at it and the opportunity. I'll give you an example a little later. I'm going to get on a call with John Wesley, who's the president of John Gordon, JON Gordon.com. He's a best-selling author, energy bus. He's also speaks in front of the NFL. He's considered the third best speaker, sort of maybe in the world, definitely in the country. He's a great guy and really amazing work. So making sure that the network is aligned with individuals or people that are motivated. And if I could shatter the glass ceiling, leave a legacy for my family and friends. They're taking away generational wealth. If I could be in the wealth bracket and really shatter that, I think Ride the Wave is our lane to do that. And it's themed ocean wise. It's great. It's amazing how it was formed. And because it was formed while I was trying to get to the bottom of the culture of a company I own, NCK Equipment, it also, and that's my in up top with Damon and those guys, it could forward face business leaders too, to teach them how to really come up with a similar model what we're doing in my company. So it's a true blessing to really provide leadership training to businesses and also individual and homeless people as well. So we're going to leverage training from Wavemaker as well to train people.
I believe in everything you're talking about. I wouldn't have had you on if I didn't. Um,
Oh, thank you.
I and I and I know the importance of it for many reasons. Number one, um, I was sharing this with somebody yesterday. I've never really known what wealth is. I mean, yeah, I know what it looks like. I've never been dirt poor, but my parents struggled and I learned to live within our means, never felt like I wasn't being loved or taken care of. So I've been lucky in my life as far as that's concerned.
Yeah.
But I was hearing
It's,
this other person saying, oh my gosh, with the way things are going in the world, you know, my 401k is dropping and this is and I can't afford this. And I looked at her and I said, have you ever been without anything? And no. I said, well, I haven't starved, but I thought I was close to it a couple times. I said, that makes me vulnerable. And that's what got me into podcasting. I'm going to
oh,
share my story and let you share your story because we all have a story and it reflects everybody else around us. You can all find something in what we're doing, what we're saying, and a light bulb goes off. And it was another podcast that I was listening to last year when I saw this woman, and it was talking about fear. I didn't know what my fear was until I saw her. She scared me. And I finally realized why she scared me. What if
mm,
that was me?
yeah.
What if that was
There you
me?
go.
I was alone. Okay. I was crippled, couldn't drive. Okay. And I'm walking down the street at night going to the grocery store.
Yeah.
I mean, God bless this woman that she does all the wonderful things she does. But I didn't know it at the time. I was scared to approach her. So I took what I thought was a safe route, reaching out to the community, trying to get some help. I'm now sorry I didn't offer her a ride or
Mhm.
ask her if I could help. Although I'm told that she is just way too proud and she probably would say, no, no, go on. You're okay. Um,
But that's okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
but that probably would have made me feel good too at that point. I would have known, okay, I at least tried. But I try with all of our podcasts to make people understand you can leave your family lots of money, but there's something missing a lot of times with the money, unless the money is
Mhm.
put to really good use.
Yeah.
It's about our human wealth that we have to use. And that's what it looks like you and your partners are using. It's what comes from the heart.
Yeah. And there's so much beyond that. And I think that's interesting that you had enough empathy to connect with that woman and say, and have some fear because we know with COVID, it could be taken away in a moment. It's a bit of a house of cards. Life could change, the grid could go down, something could happen. The network you have going up, they're going to be there when you're coming down. And if I look at anything, the relationships that I've been developing within the community, if something were to go down, at least Chris and my wife and I would have connections out there with people that have an understanding of how to survive out there with nothing. And it's things like her not having a ride is one of the reasons why wave transportation is going to be developed. And we're in the process of that because Jose and Heather were two guests on the show recently. And we discussed that transportation gap where people are expected to be at appointments at a certain time. And if they're not going to get those resources and they're not virtual appointments and they have to walk 6 miles. They're hungry. They feel tired. You're not in a good mood, if you don't have proper nutrition and things like that. So to walk that far, they're not going to do it. They end up choosing out of frustration to sleep on the street. So Mark and I, we say, all right, well, we're going to do it. We'll build trust within the community if nobody else is going to do it. So it's about recognizing what the needs are, not assuming and going out there and just acting out. Even if you're polite to somebody, you don't need to give money or a gift. Encouragement is fuel for the spirit. When you look somebody in the eye and you meet them for the first time, you compliment them and you get to know them and you see an opening and you fuel them with encouragement, you can see someone's eyes light up. And it's amazing to watch. And these days, you never know who you're talking to or how depressed somebody is. You could be in line somewhere. You could be friendly to somebody and they might have thought of taking their life that day. It is common. We had a whole episode on suicide. So the interaction with Daryl, I do a one word through John Gordon each year. He has a book, one word, and you basically pick one out for the whole year, and then I focus on it. That year, a few years ago, was encouragement. So I really fueled Daryl with encouragement. I looked into that. You're going to be fine. Keep going, keep pushing. It's going to turn on. I see something in you. There's something unique in you. You have something to contribute. Now we're going to eventually hopefully get language together where he could come on a show with me. And his life has meaning now. Everybody could do it. It's right in their realm. And I think a part of the human game is really to figure that out, is to go outside the box. And it's not going to come without challenges. My business with NCK has so many challenges going on. I'm so stretched thin financially. I've put everything into that. I have everything on the line, risking it all. And I wouldn't take it back for a million years. Because, like you said, too, and like I mentioned, the wealth, that currency, what fills me up now is that the paths to the person, those interconnections. So if we can do anything to get one person to be able to give back and to help somebody else out and to be able to feel that in this world with so many different distractions, because that's what the enemy's doing, is keeping us connected yet disconnected on every front. So we could be very busy and not get a lot done. So it's shifting from what you're doing to purpose and just saying, screw it. I don't care what anybody thinks. I don't care what anybody says. I'm going to check up on this person regardless. And I think that's in the book. That's what we're supposed to do. So for me, faith is where the fight is. I'm personally a Christian. I'm open to having anybody on the show of any religion or any spirituality. But that's where I come from. And I'm looking to be of service the best I can. And it's a blessing, really, to be able to do so.
For those individuals who say, I don't know what I want to do, I don't know who I want to be. Um, as a life coach, I hear it all the time. I'll have somebody who will call me up and, okay, you know, I want to pay for your services. Okay, tell me a little bit about yourself. And it's like, well, I don't know. They claim they don't know who they are. They don't know what they want.
Yeah.
Karen, please tell me. And no, I'm not going to tell you. For too many years, I had people telling me what I should be doing in my life. And I did those things until I realized I was miserable. I loved my husband, I loved my kids, I loved my parents, but I didn't love how I was going through life. And so I had to teach myself how to like myself, how to find those things that were important to me. And
Mhm.
when I first brought it up that I was going to podcast, and this was over 10 years ago when most people weren't quite sure what a podcast was, neither was I,
Yeah.
but I was doing it. And I remember my brother calling me up and saying, why are you telling people about your raw life? And I said, because it makes me feel better. Because
Yeah.
somebody on the other end will either say to me, yeah, I've been there too, but you know how I got out of it? You know what I did? And it doesn't mean I'm going to do the exact same thing, but it means that I see, hey, there's an opportunity. There's a possibility. I don't have to stay here because you didn't, all these other people didn't. And if you choose to stay where you are and not learn from it and not give to others, it's your choice. I can't make you, and I'm not going to make you.
Yeah, I think you nailed it, Karen. It is a choice that people make. And sometimes I think people realize that they're not, or they don't realize that they're making a choice by being inactive. And it's a discovery. It's a proactive approach, I think. One of the reasons why we're sitting here behind the scenes when no one was looking, I spent a lot of time on self-development. I would go to libraries, I would go on YouTube, whether it be spirituality or whether it be workbooks, action plans, journaling, reflection journals, writing success journals at the end of the day. I tried every different approach. Dr. Peterson's authoring program to go dig into my past, present, and future. If somebody ever wanted to do that privately, that's something you could do. But isn't there something also to speaking out your truth? I didn't know a few years ago that I would even have a show, let alone be doing something like this. I remember my one friend Joe a while back, we were talking and we were like, oh, we should record something. I don't know what. But I've revealed so much of my personal perspective and just who I am out into the show. And it's very freeing. And there's an aspect to it that if one person could take something from us or any of the shows and learn, like you said, and take that, it's worth it then. It's really worth it. And no offense, I don't know if it was a friend or family member that said that, but I think that people that don't take that time or take the work, because there is a bit of discomfort in the beginning, there is a little bit of pain. But once you open that door into an exploratory, it could be fun. You could find a lot of different things about yourself. It's not as scary as people think, but it's getting out of that first gear on the manual car. It's like everybody stalls out. But once you're in second and you learn how to get over first gear, you'll then start to flow. You'll start to ride with it, and it'll become something that you become more mundane or routine. And discipline I think is really important, making sure you're waking up early, drinking water, if you're somebody that reads scripture or brain games, things like that, but making it intentional. There'll be times when, and it's not to judge anyone or anything like that, but because of everything we have going on, somebody might complain, oh, I've never done that. I've never experienced that. So here's the reason why I'm not going to do it, or I can't. I just sit back and I'll look and just say to myself, you have no idea what you're capable of. Like, you don't understand what's inside of you that you could just open up and you can transform your paradigm from the inside out and recreate an entire world if you believe in it, because life is the best video game. I'd rather, instead of being on a screen playing games, I'd rather act out the best one so I could feel, hear all with all my senses, and with connecting with people and everything that's happened with Mark Robinson and all that. I'm realizing that even though we're living such different lifestyles, we're connected in the spirit and we do have a lot more in common than I ever thought. So it's changed my perspective. My mind will never be the same and I can never go back.
Well, as I write about in my blogs and I repeat it regularly, I was in my 50s when I finally shook myself up. Um, there were times in my life I thought I was unhappy, but I also saw happiness. And so I just didn't know who I was. But I don't even know what the catalyst was that broke things. But when I realized I had more potential than I had been using,
Yeah.
and I was tired of hearing people say to me, oh, let so and so do that. They're good at it. Let them do it. Um, Growing up, my mother was a wonderful baker. I remember the first time I was home alone with my dad, and we were going to be home for dinner. So I said to him, I'm going to make dinner. I went to the grocery store. I bought a box cake. I bought macaroni and cheese in a box, and I came home and I made it.
Mhm.
And my dad thought it was terrific. My mother came home. She was appalled, not with the macaroni and cheese, the fact that I made a box cake in her house.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, I thought my life was over. How could I do that in my mother's kitchen? And for many years, I walked around thinking, I'll never learn how to cook. I'll never learn how to bake. Well, that wasn't true. I eventually did and enjoyed it and sort of understood why my mother enjoyed doing everything from scratch rather than using box food. But I didn't understand it at that time. But again, we're always wherever we are right now is where we have to be to get to the next step because we're going to learn from it. So
Yeah.
You might be sitting out there homeless and hungry right now, but there's a step to get out of it.
Yeah, and it really could be small. There's something called 1%. So if I'm not doing any push-ups at all, and I'm in my living room and I do one or two, and then the next day or 2 days later, I just add one or a half of one, and then just slowly do that. Next thing you know, in a couple months, I'm up to 50 push-ups. But not only that, I've instilled a really good routine. So really keeping track of the things that we do on a daily basis, but then saying, what can I add on and do something different that I normally wouldn't? If I'm looking for a job, I'll send out three more resumes than I normally do, or I'll make two more calls than I normally do. Just being conscious of, because we could get so much in a routine. There's been, like you had said too, there's been a couple times where I assumed and I was surprised that certain things were not happening in the community. Even if something small, which connected me to the John Gordon team, I was on a certification because I'm certified power positive leadership through their team. And you get a monthly check-in at that time. So it's a virtual with their whole team. I didn't see that they had a business sponsorship program, which I was surprised at. And I asked a question, raised the hand in the during the certification, and they thought it was a really good idea. So I think that sometimes, like I had mentioned before, if you have a question, answer it, even if you think, or ask it, even if you think it's something that's stupid, because you'll uncover something. Somebody else
Exactly.
may think also the same thing, but it'll spark collaboration. So I think that people are afraid, walking on eggshells. They're afraid to upset the apple cart. But there's something that I think you could do is love tough. There's tough love, but love tough is knowing that something's good for somebody else and speaking up on their behalf, even though it's difficult for others to hear. Even though you may not look like the most popular person, it's going to wrap around later. It's where it's going to be okay. But this whole thing of going through the motions, not checking up on each other to see if we're okay, not showing love tough if someone's addicted and they're screwing up, they have blind spots. We got to speak up. We got to get out there. And this country, the power is in the people. That's how it was built. We need a resurgence there. And the campus needs to be community based. We need to come together as a team and say, all right, this is not working. The system currently is not working. We need something new, something fresh, something we can get out there, university style, and have some humane services for the first time, and something that could be replicated around the country, maybe even the world. And now's the time. And it could be as we start to get back on track, maybe with the country, hopefully, that would be a great add on to having people leave to be able to contribute the best they can. Because even walking in Somerville, I'm noticing more people looking more beat up and more homeless than normal. We need to do the opposite there. It's not going to be the government. It's not going to be from the top down or nothing like that. It has to be within the community. It has to be us. So that's what this is. It's really from the ground up. And Mark and I, we do have relationships that are very unique within the community, and we're trying to build that trust because it's been deflated, because they so many
Right.
missed promises. I mean, how I didn't even know that there was no transportation for people like that. How could there not be? Or how could they not get lifts or Ubers for free? There's so much money. Where's the money going? When I'm carrying and driving around New Jersey, I see these brand new apartments being built everywhere. That's going to crash eventually. Such short-term thinking. Wawas and Quick Checks, which are convenience stores and gas stations, but we're supposed to be about the environment. What is that about? While people are on the streets, it's unacceptable. And it's such a blessing. It fills me up every day to come to work with a purpose and to be doing this thing. So, and to be able to share the story is just amazing.
It's interesting because where we live, this national park, when I first moved here, the park system was coming up and buying out homeowners at pennies on the dollar, making them get out of their homes, tore homes down just so that there could be more grass, okay, more weeds. I would have understood you didn't want to build any more homes, but the fact
Mhm.
that you had to move people out. But some of these homes stood for a very long time. And I remember saying to my husband, with all the homeless people, many of them have skills. They just have no
Yes.
place to use them. Why can't we bring them out here, give them a place to live, and have them rebuild it? Let's put people together with them who can help and guide them. What is
Yes.
wrong with that? And he looked at me and he said, well, I'm sure, the government says it's insurance. Well,
Yeah.
you know what? People dying on the street isn't helping
Right.
us either. So
Sounds like an excuse.
I hope when people start to listen to this and realize that, hey, there may be an empty building in their city. Maybe there's a way to rebuild that building with people who need to learn skills or people who already have the skills but no place to use them. Because
Yeah.
once they can feel good about themselves, and I know my epiphany is not the same, but when I realized, hey, I could be better than who I was, what a difference it makes.
Yeah.
I can put my head on my pillow at night and say, I'm at least working at being better. And I think that's how we all want to live our life. And not just about
Yeah.
being the best, we just want to be better so that others can be better with us. So, how can we
Yeah.
follow you, Jeff, and where can people find more information?
Yeah. And thank you so much. So if you go to ridethewave.org, everything's on there. Our commitment statement to building the campus. We're going to overhaul the website. We definitely have work to do as far as the show. So we're young. We really would appreciate any donations, or we're looking for volunteers, specifically social media managers, anybody in marketing, anybody experienced in videography or anything like that. Everything else is on there. You can get to the show. You can buy the book on the bottom, the contact page. If anybody fills that out, it goes right now to me. It's only Mark and I. We're a very small team. So I'll take a look at it. If you could just let me know where you heard about the show or just the foundation in general. And I agreed with what you said, Karen. And it's been a real pleasure being on the show. And Ride the Wave is going to be great one day. The best is yet to come.
I'm looking forward to it. We'll have you on again because we're going to want to talk about how great
Yeah.
you are. Thanks. Have a
Thank you.
wonderful day. Bye bye now.
You too. Bye. Thank you.